But first, the good Reverend Al Sharpton sent a letter to the DNC yesterday saying that it would commit a grave injustice if it seated delegates from Florida and Michigan at the party's national convention. Just to make sure he made his point, he also threatened to march on the party's Washington headquarters, and I believe the headquarters of the NAACP as well, but I'll ask him here in a second. Coincidentally, Sharpton's ultimatum came just a day after the NAACP leader Julian Bond urged Democrat Party officials to officially seat the delegates from Florida and Michigan, saying that not to do so would risk disenfranchising minorities. What about all the white people that voted? Let's break here for just a little history lesson here. Do you remember Bill Clinton? He was America's first black president. After 8 years in office, he owes a bunch of favors to his pals over at the NAACP, and now he's calling them in. See, you might have forgotten. I didn't mention that his wife, Hillary, won the Florida and Michigan primaries, and now she needs the delegates more than ever. Now back to Al Sharpton. Al is an Obama supporter, and while it looks like Barack is a lock for the nomination, Sharpton is smart enough to know that you should never, ever underestimate the tenacity of the Clinton political machine. Hillary, kind of like the Terminator. You know, they say that you should never turn your back on a pit bull. I say pit bulls should never turn their back on a Clinton. Reverend Al Sharpton joins me now. Reverend Al.
How you doing, Glenn?
Well, I'm having a hard time understanding this story, sir, and here's why. You don't want the delegates seated, right?
Well, no, what I've said, and by the way, I have not endorsed any candidate. I'm not speaking for Obama or Clinton. I'm neutral. I'm saying that the Democratic National Committee cannot say that they're not going to recognize delegates, have people either vote or not vote, based on the fact that it was by them announced just a beauty contest and meaningless, and then come back a few months later and say, oh, we changed our mind, we're going to seat those delegates, they do mean something. So all of you that didn't vote, tough luck. That disenfranchises voters. And in the state of Michigan, they didn't even have the other candidates on the ballot. That's a voter rights violation in my judgment, Glenn.
Al, I'm having such a hard day today. I really am. Because I find myself looking at you, Al Sharpton, and saying, he's consistent. You're making sense. And it hurts my head, Al. I don't know what to do. You're making sense here. The problem is, the DNC, they already made this rule. Now, here's, I guess here's the part where I do disagree with you. And that is, you said that this was turning the Democratic Party into the GOP from like it was in 2000 when they changed all the rules. This is exactly what the Democrats did in 2000 with Al Gore. They cherry-picked. Instead of picking and just recounting the whole state in which Al Gore would have won, they said, no, let's just pick this one and this one and this one to recount, and that's why he lost. This is the problem with the Democrats. They're always changing the rules. They're always just making them up as they go along as it's convenient for them.
Well, I think that we've got to call them on it. And again, I think those of us that are neutral are the ones to do it, because I think that clearly, whether you agree with my assessment of 2000 or not, it is absolutely clear that you cannot advertise and say that you're not regarding a primary and then come back later and say you are, and then tell people you're not disenfranchised.
If the NAACP says that this would disenfranchise voters now, why wouldn't they say it disenfranchised voters before?
Well, I talked to Julian Bond, and he says that his position has been, Julian Bond is the chairman of the NAACP, he says that his position has been misconstrued. What he's saying is that the voters in Michigan and Florida has the right to representation, of which I agree with him, and that they have to recognize those states.
But
I think it cannot be done by seating these delegates. Right. Well, I don't know what was said months ago. I think you can't do that by seating these delegates. And I think that the Democratic National Committee has to find a way to, yes, enfranchise the voters in Michigan and the voters in Florida, but they can't do it by trying to announce they're going to do what they said they were not going to do. They put themselves into this position, and they've got to find a way to come out of it. But the way to come out of it is not to just turn around and do a 180-degree turn on which you announced and disenfranchise those that believed that you were going to do what you said you were going to do.
Reverend, as always, it is a pleasure having you on, and we'll talk to you again.
Thank you.
All right.